So as I said, people, here I am, HMYOY, Lancaster Farms, Young Offenders Institution. Me and Daniel spent a lot of time here in the block, segregation unit, isolation unit, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is, it's a bad place. All the kids that are in here now will be going through a bad time, although they keep smiling for the family and friends. The boredom and the psychological harm that's happened to some of these kids that are placed into the segregation unit and that, it's disgusting. And basically that's what Choose a Life Not a Knife is all about now. It's about trying to educate the youth not to get in trouble and not start spending time in places like this, the likes of Hindley, Stoke Heath and so on and so forth, Dearbolt, Doncaster. So here we are, this is it. HMP YOY Lancaster Farms. As I say, me and Daniel spent loads of our time here, and the incident we're going to speak about now is the one with Robert Taylor, who's a murderer, stabbed his girlfriend to death, cut her up, put it in the freezer. So we're here, I'm just going to sit off on this bench and explain what's what and how and why. But first, just let me try and educate some of you youth on what these places are. The warehouses, they're there to warehouse young offenders who are coming from traumatic backgrounds, young offenders who have committed a crime for the first time because they lost control of their emotions. The majority of the kids in here are caught up in gangbanging, they're caught up in situations that they don't know how to get away from. They've lost their identity and they participate in criminal activity that they would never ever participate in if the elders didn't encourage them to get on board with other things. I've been in Lancaster now for a couple of hours, well all day basically. We've been to a nice few places. We've been to the adult prison, which is Lancaster Castle, where I spent time, and now we're here at the YOY. It's a bad place to be, trust me, you're wasting your time. The crime that you commit and the little bit of money you make, you'll make a lot more getting a job or claiming benefits until you get some sort of employment that you like. The incident I want to speak about is the incident with this Taylor kid, skinny kid. His eyes, one had a flicker, he had a ponytail type back. You might have heard of me speaking about before. The bottom line is we're on a wing called Darren 2. It's a weekend, it's a Sunday morning. I need to be going to my rugby match. The officers don't open my door. They let everyone else out but me. I start banging my door and I've got a few screws giving me stuff, and they're not, it is what it is. They've put me on basic because of that. They took me off the rugby team because of that, so I'm not happy. In the process, Danny's on association. Danny starts umming and ahhing. So they lock Danny behind his door and it's a mess. They open us up for lunchtime, and at lunchtime it goes off its cake. We absolutely smash the wing to bits. The pool tables get wrecked, the slate on the pool tables gets wrecked, and when you get placed on an adjudication for damage to prison property, the value comes into account, and anyone knows about the slates on pool tables, they cost a lot of money. Anyway, we spend a short duration down the segregation unit. They don't want us in the segregation unit because we're disrupting it to death. The best thing to do for us is put us onto another wing, which is called Windermere 2. We're on Windermere 2, we're being reintegrated back into the community, but they won't let us on association together. So this particular night, Danny's behind the door till he goes to the gym, and I'm on association playing pool and whatever. Danny's gone to the gym, doing his stuff. I'm playing pool. Robert Taylor's playing pool with me, with his brother. As we're playing pool, as we're doing our thing, Danny comes back from the gym, and the normal routine after that is for the ones that have come back from the gym, they get the doors open, then they go and get the water, and then get back behind the door, the hot water. With Danny, they never let him go for his water. They put him behind his door and not let him go for his water. So he's banging the door, causing murder. As we're watching this, I want to engage with the screws because of what they're doing to Danny, but I'm thinking better about it and just seeing what the outcome is. As I'm doing this murderer, Robert Taylor, who stabbed his girl to death and put her inside into a freezer, started mouthing off about our Danny. Back in the day, the pool cues weren't light. They still had the lead in the handle, so they were like baseball bats basically. This kid starts giving Danny verbal. Now he's shouting at the door saying, shut up you fucking nugget. So as soon as that kicked in, I've just whacked him full force right on the side of the head. He's gone down. I've given him a few more clips. That's what it was. We've ended up blocked again. We've ended up blocked, shipped out to the HMP Hindley, which was a Manchester prison. When I've landed in that Manchester prison, years ago when we were juveniles, there was pure hatred between Manchester kids and Liverpool kids. So they've sent me to a jail full of Manchester lads on purpose because of the likes of Ray Duckworth, who was a PEI in this prison. Danny broke his arm later on in his prison career. I've ended up in Lee. I've ended up fighting with all these kids from Manchester, Wythenshawe, Cheetham Hill and so on and so forth. The same kids we meet later on in strange ways, so it ends up sweet. The point I'm trying to make of all this is we wouldn't have been in them situations if we wouldn't have lost ourselves to gangs and groups of elders who we thought was encouraging us to do better for ourselves, when in reality they was destroying us for their own gain. They were manipulating us, we were making money for them, so on and so forth. Choose a life, not a knife is very powerful. I need you to understand, when you're residing in these institutions, it's doing nothing but damaging you, damaging your family and psychologically hindering your progress in the future. Once you start coming through these doors, they call it the revolving door. It doesn't stop there. You start coming in, out, in, out, in, out for years. Little one here, little one there, a year here, 6 months there. Eventually, like me, from a 12-month sentence, 15-month sentence, up to an 18. Double figures, gone in the prison system for over a decade. From the age of 24 to the age of 36. They're the pivotal years. They're the years where you're setting up shop, setting up family, marrying a woman, paying a mortgage, getting all this stuff in place so your children are better off, well better off than you. We fast forward 20 years to the years 2016, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You've now got young lads at the age of 18 being encouraged by their elders to do their dirty work. When they do that dirty work, there's consequences, and them consequences can lead to 20-year recommendations in prison. 18-year-old lads haven't really got a clue what they're doing. They're listening to elders thinking it's good advice. They end up in the prison system for 20 years recommendation sentences. If you don't know what that is, you do the full 20. Even a 10-year sentence, a 2-year sentence, a 4-year sentence these days is doing a lot more damage than what it done in them days. Why? Because it's different in the prison system now. There's no morals within the prison system now. Everyone's taking some sort of substance. There's steroids in there, there's knives in there, there's spice in there, there's all sorts of stuff that's going to hinder your progression in here. These places initially were set up to rehabilitate young offenders, to help young offenders change their ways and move on in a life in a legal manner. They don't do that no more. They're not built for that no more. They're simply warehouses that are holding people that cannot be controlled within the community. There's two systems within our communities. It's the education system and the justice system. The majority of the kids that are in the education system and fall out of it end up in the justice system. That's a fact. The community centres that they're shutting down up and down the country, replacing them with prison places up and down the country, they're only going to be filled by a certain kind of individual, and it's my kind of individual. The young kid from the streets, the young kid from broken homes, the young kids getting guided by the rats who are older than us. Choose a life, not a knife is just trying to make you aware of this situation. Don't participate in that bullshit, because you're going to end up in here and become a fucking prison number like I was for 30 years of my life. That's all I've got to say on the matter. These institutions do not rehabilitate you, they make you worse. They put you at risk, they harm you sexually and psychologically if they've got to. Individuals in here there, you don't hear about the sexual assaults that go on in most HMP establishments up and down the country, but it happens. You've got young lads getting raped by men these days. Why? Because 4 or 5, 6 years ago, the government decided to start mixing 18-year-old boys in with adults, 21, 35, and it doesn't matter what their offences was. You've got young males getting placed in conditions where there's serious sex offenders, and the sex offenders take full advantage. For example, when I'm in Woodhill, in HMP Woodhill in Milton Keynes, it's a Cat A establishment, but they have juveniles mixing with cons. There was 3 incidents in there that I know of where 4 or 5 sex offenders have gone in on a cell on a young adult and raped him and abused him. This isn't lies, this isn't scaremongering. This is what's going on in today's prisons right now. They're understaffed. The staff that are in there are not educated properly. What they done a couple of years ago, all the mature staff, the staff, the screws that have been in there for 10, 20 years, had the experience, had the people skills, knew how to deal with what and that. They give them an option: sign this new contract or take a payoff. The majority of them took a payoff. The people that replaced them are 3 months in a job. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. They're open to corruption on a mass scale, and because of that, you've got the prison system filled with drugs. And just like outside of prison, in our communities, where there's drug dealing and where there's drug activity, there's violence and there's victims in numbers that are just not fucking good. And it's exactly the same in prison environment. There's drugs available, and with the drug dealing there's violence, and there's a lot of people getting cut. There's a lot of families being threatened that if they don't pay the son's debt, he's going to get hurt. There's kids self-harming, there's kids committing suicide. This is not good, and it never will be good. I'm trying to encourage yous and provoke yous to think twice about what you're getting involved with. All them older lads are not good. You might get 1 or 2 that's got your interest at heart, but the rest are trying to use you and abuse you to gain for themselves. Choose a life, not a knife, CALNAKUK UK. That's all I can say to you from now on. Peace out, L5 shout, Darren G outside HMP, Lancaster Farms. CALNAKUK UK, people. Keep your kids away from prison bars. Choose a life, not a knife, as always. L5 alive.